Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead on and call the Brawley City Council and successor agency to Brawley Community Redevelopment Agency to order this evening, Tuesday, January the 7th at 6 p.m. And I want to welcome everyone here this evening, and if we can have the roll call, please.
The meeting will reflect all council members present.
Okay, I'm going to do the invocation, and I ask that Mrs. Noriega lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay. Ready, begin. Oh, I'm sorry.
Invocation first.
Sorry.
That's okay. That means God's in the house. Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this gorgeous day, Father. And Father, we thank you so much for our beautiful city and the community, Father. And Father, we thank you so much for getting us through the year of 2013, Father. It's a blessing to be here this new year. And we know without your help, Father, and your guidance, it wouldn't be possible, Father. And Father, we thank you so much for all that you do for us and continue to forgive us for our sins, Father. And we humble and honor you for that. Father, we thank you so much for our church and our church families and our pastors. And Father, today I ask you to look over our workers in the city, Father, and keep them safe, keep them out of harm's way, Father. And this evening I ask that you watch over us at this meeting, Father, and help us humble our heart, Father, and do what's pleasing to you and do the people's work, Father, and give us the open mind and the soft heart, Father, to agree to disagree and forgive, Father, and move on to the next item so we can take care of people's business, Father. And Father, if there's someone here today that's ill or feeling a little sad, Father, for whatever reason, we ask that you show your passion and your power this evening in this chamber, Father, to help us and help us be humble to you. For we know that the Lamb that was slain, Father, for all the sins of the world. And we ask for your continued forgiveness for our sins. And we thank you so much for your blessing, Father. And we ask all these things in your Son's precious name. Amen.
Amen. Okay, so now you guys know that when you give me an order, I do it right away. I don't mess around. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to move right along. And the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda that's presented before this council, unless there's some changes from the council.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve make a motion for approval of agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item is the public appearance and comments. And this is the time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter's jurisdiction of the city council. The mayor will recognize you when you come to the microphone. Please state your name for the record. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. Please direct your questions and comments to the city council. And this is the time for the public to come up. Ryan.
Mr. Mayor, Ryan Kelly, 448 Russell Road. I came to give you an update on some things that are happening in the county. In December, at the Salton Sea Authority meeting, there was an agenda item for the Salton Sea Authority to pass a resolution in support of the MOU between IID and the County of Imperial. And to my shock, it passed, and CVW voted in favor. Subsequent to that, CVW is going to have it on their next coming agenda, and the County of Riverside will have it on their agenda as well. A lot of action is taking place, and not just within our region, but also in the coastal areas of San Diego, Orange, Riverside, and Los Angeles, San Bernardino. Utility companies have already been contacted, the larger SCE and PG&E and San Diego Gas and Electric. So a lot of that momentum is still going forward. There's a meeting on the 27th of February in Washington, D.C., and it's a discussion hearing held by Senator Boxer in regards to the MOU and the potential for federal government involvement in the development of the known geothermal resource area and how some of the public lands could be used for restoration activities.
And CBW stands for?
Coachella Valley Water Authority.
Thank you.
And then let you know that on the Cal Poly Brawley, that we've been waiting to get some of the demographic information back from the Office of Education. It still has not arrived, but we are going to be scheduling a meeting for later this month, and I will reach out to the city as well to have representation. It looks very favorable. It will take some time, but I believe that we have all the pieces to make this a possibility. Today we acknowledge Royce Freeman and his accomplishments on the football field and also his academics. In my comment, I told him that I was very happy to see him going to college, so he would not have to play Brawley anymore. And his coach said he was very sad and wanted to keep him around for a couple more years. Great kid and well honored, and we're going to create a memorial that his picture with his accomplishments will go on to the county administration building, and begin a acknowledgement of local athletes, kind of a hall of champions for initiating for the county of Imperial. The county will also be doing a strategic planning. The date hasn't been scheduled, but I believe the local jurisdictions, you'll definitely be invited, and this would be an open forum to discuss goals and objectives for the county and to get consideration for the entities that we deal with daily, being the cities and special districts. Today, the IID discussed the economic analysis that came back for the known geothermal resource area. It had a $4.28 billion potential over a 30-year lifespan. It still needs to be refined. That number is very high and it might be too lofty, but we've identified that $3 billion is what we're projecting to, if that's built out, that would be able to sustain the restoration activities. And then today we also approved a letter of support for the Four Winds Foreign Trade Zone. So as Brawley is a member of the JPA on the foreign trade, or the signature for the foreign trade zone that we have in Imperial County. There's another one that the tribal entities, Torres Martinez, along with the other tribes in Coachella Valley, have an application pending. The County of Riverside and a few of the cities in Coachella Valley. And now the County of Imperial have written letters of support for that trade zone designation. How that impacts us is that the Torres Martinez tribe, which also operates Red Earth Casino, would be able to, if successful in the application, would be able to make use of their right-of-way along Highway 86 and have some commercial and industrial development that would benefit from that designation. So that's what's going on. Always here, available for your prompting or comment or questions.
Ryan, I want to personally say thank you for reporting back, and you represent your district real well, and you are real good about letting us know what's going on at that level, and I, as representing the city of Brawley, I really appreciate that.
Ditto.
Thanks, Tom.
It's always a pleasure, you know that. You've done a really good job representing.
So I got to leave with some lighthearted stuff. I heard that you and Donnie were at the farmer's market manning the booth.
That's lighthearted.
Free labor, cheap labor.
Cheap labor. My arm got twisted, so I'm going to try this out.
There you
I think
go.
I had a really good time.
There you go.
So.
It was a good time. Look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
brother.
I won't ask whose it was.
Hello, good evening, Mayor Don Campbell and City Council members. I'm here as a citizen of Brawley, and I wanted to thank those of you that were able to attend yesterday, our MAC Coalition Peace Vigil, and I hope that it could only get better from where we started. the reason that I'm here today is to ask your guidance on how we could honor a family. Frank and Irene Chavez have continuously for the last 20 years been doing fundraisers, a barbecue at Hinojosa Park for their son in his memory, and have continuously given thousands of dollars to our youth. And this coming February, it'll be 20 years since they've been contributing back to our community and helping us raise our children. And I wanted to know how we can arrange to maybe get the kiosk named after Frankie Chavez in his memory. If there's something that, we as a community need to set forth and plan, or if something that you guys can put on your agenda to speak, as a whole, an action item on your agenda, or if needed, a petition. I just would like guidance, because I truly believe that family has set precedents to many of us that honor our deceased children and also give back to our community. It's the last thing we want, the position we want to be in, but I truly believe that Frankie has really brought a lot and contributed a lot as, a young man that unfortunately lost his life, 20 years ago.
Yes. Ms. Garza, I'm open to talking and dialoguing with those ideas. And I think at one time there was a committee, a street naming facility.
We still have it. It's just not active now.
Yeah. But you're right. We need to look at some of these things, and I've participated in several of those events with the Chavez family and the Mata family. I think that was two families that was involved in that
Yes.
tragedy at that time. So I understand exactly where you're coming from, and I think we as a council need to get together maybe and talk about it. And we're willing to do that.
Okay, and is there something that we need to do, or as a community?
No,
I think at this point we will discuss it,
discuss it.
certainly amongst council and then with our city manager to see what some of the options may be.
And
Yes.
I can,
You can always,
Come back?
you can reach us, email us, call us, and
okay.
we'll continue the conversation.
Okay, that sounds
Yeah.
good,
And
because I know in February we're having the 20th
Yeah.
barbecue. I believe it's the
And
20th.
I want to say to you too, even after last night, I know it's been a year, but I really admire your courage and what your family is doing for our community and all of our children, because Martine was close to all of us. So God bless you, dearie, and we're going to be there with you. Okay.
Thank you. And today I'm here to petition on the other family's behalf, because I really believe all of us have benefited. And my son was one of those running around since he was a kid, helping, just take that trash over there or whatever, and then later serving the food. And so I think it helps them learn community service as well.
Sure.
So thank you for your time, and I wish you guys all luck and this year, and bring prosperity to our town and to our county.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for
Thank
having
you.
us yesterday as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for being there.
Yeah. Is there anyone else from the public like to come? Hey, Dan, how you doing? Good.
I am here. I'm Diana Peacher, and
Yes.
thank you for allowing me to speak, Mayor and City
It's a
Council.
pleasure. It's a pleasure.
I am the CEO of the Cancer Resource Center of the Desert, an organization, a nonprofit organization that has been in our community since 2006, so for 7 years. And I am here to talk to you about a campaign that we have launched in collaboration with Pioneers Hospital, Clínicas de Salud del Pueblo, the U.S.-Mexico Border Binational Health Commission, Mujeres que Viven, which is a nonprofit organization in Mexicali, Vantage Oncology, etc., to bring awareness to the importance of breast cancer screening for women who live in our region. The reason why we have even started this, because as you may or may not know, Cancer Resource Center of the Desert was founded for the purpose of working with people who are already diagnosed with cancer. We really have never entered into the field of early detection. But working with some of the researchers from San Diego State and from UCSD, we found statistics that indicate that Hispanic women who live in the Brawley region and in the Calexico region have a higher late-stage diagnosis for breast cancer than Hispanic women in the rest of the county and Hispanic women in the rest of the state. So we felt that we had to do something about that because the trajectory for that, the result of that, is that these two regions have a higher mortality rate. So what can we do about that? And we put our heads together and decided that if we did something binationally, that perhaps we could have a greater impact on our community. Because as you all know, there is an exodus every Friday evening to Mexicali by many members of our community. They are truly members of both countries. They truly reside, if you will, in both countries. And so our thought was that we could share a campaign with Mexico, and that with the same messaging that perhaps we could reach more women with this message about getting their mammography. So what we're doing is we're trying to blast this information across the county, but specifically targeting Brawley and Calexico. And the campaign will end on January 31st, which is a Friday, and February 1st, which is a Saturday, with mammography screenings available at Pioneers Hospital in Brawley and at Clínicas de Salud del Pueblo in Calexico for Imperial County residents. And then, of course, in Mexicali, for people who live over there, there will be available to them mammography screenings as well. But people need to sign up ahead of time because the slots are limited. And so we really want our community to take this important information and utilize it in order to save women who live in this community in Brawley and women who live in Calexico from a late-stage diagnosis rate, which is much more difficult to treat and much more difficult to cure. So thus, that information is available to you in any way that it can be disseminated, that you can think of. Please let us know. We really want everyone in the community to be aware of this and then to take action, which is all about the screening. Our hope is that we're going to have so many people signing up that Pioneers will open their doors on more Saturdays, because it is really, working women aren't going to take time off. In fact, we just were discussing this with somebody from Brawley High School, an employee there, and she said, I don't get my mammography because I don't want to take off work. So Saturday is really awesome. So.
And if we could do so, and maybe I can direct this to Dennis, can we put this on the Brawley City website for folks that go on and take a hit and look without any difficulties of doing that?
I believe so.
Okay, and maybe we can help in that way.
Okay. Mayor Campbell, I did have an opportunity to meet with Mrs. Peacher late last week and offer to distribute it to our employee list, do a media blast. It's a free service to women who are eligible, so we'd like to do our part to be sure it reaches as many people as it can.
And also, just for your information, for women who are uninsured, there is a program through the state of California that provides free mammographies to them, along with the Pap test and a clinical breast exam. So whether they're insured or uninsured is a non-issue. We can take care of those women. Okay? But we'll get that information to you via email. Okay?
Thank you very much. Any questions from council? Any questions from the public?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council and staff. Jason Zara with the Brawley Chamber. I just wanted to run down a couple of quick items we have coming up. Tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, we actually have our Meet the Governmental Affairs Committee breakfast at the Brawley Chamber. And as many of the public and staff may or may not know, the Governmental Affairs Committee is a joint committee of the El Centro and Brawley Chambers of Commerce. where we monitor federal, state, and local politics. And we do, of course, report on the fine work here at the Chamber and many other issues that are affecting our local business communities. And we feel that the existence of this committee maybe isn't well known, and so tomorrow's breakfast is our first step to try and get out there into the public eye a little bit more. And anyone who's interested is welcome to come down and join us. That's 7 o'clock tomorrow at the Chamber. Thursday afternoon is the Joint Chamber Showcase at the Fairgrounds. That's from 4 to 7 and showcases businesses from throughout the valley. And of course, everybody is welcome to attend that as well. We have $1 off coupons at the Chamber. I believe the price is $6 at the door, $5 with the coupon. And there are quite a few Brawley businesses that will be represented. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a city council meeting if I didn't come up here and say the words farmers market. And, of course, our next event is this Saturday, and we are greatly looking forward to it and hope to see everybody from staff and public there, and are grateful, as always, to the city for their help and support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. You guys doing a good job. Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public like to come up?
I wanted to ask something about the graffiti. Do I do it now or wait?
Yeah, you can come up now. Come on. And how do you say no to your mother? Yeah.
Yeah, careful.
Real quiet. I'm looking like really.
I'm Carmen Araujo. I live on 1065 K Street. I'm sorry I didn't mention the mayor or the council. But anyway, I came here because I saw this morning about the problem you're having with graffiti again. I just came to tell you that I don't remember exactly, but 5-6 years back we had the same problem, and we had a meeting at the Hidalgo Hall, and all the councilmen, the mayor, and the chief of police, and some other important people went over, and they discussed about different things about it. And at that time, I've been a lifetime member of the Hidalgo Hall, and a member from there, Marta Enriquez, she was working then with the police department, with the prison as a counseling for the prisoners. And at that time, she suggested that maybe we needed to get some counseling for the kids when they're young, for the kids that show that they're going to be trouble, whatever, if we could get a counseling to help them out. And she mentioned it, and she suggested that she was willing to counsel, that if there was any suggestions or something, she would help, or maybe get help from other sources. But nobody mentioned nothing, and it just kept like that. But because what she mentioned was that when she was counseling the prisoners at the prison, some of them, older men or whatever, they would talk to her, and they would just, cry, that it was too late for them to be out of prison. But if they had some kind of a meaning when they were young, if they had some love or somebody to teach them right from wrong, or put them to do something instead of just getting into gangs and doing things that weren't right. And since they didn't have nobody to help them out or anything, they just kept hanging around with the wrong crowd, which was gangs. And they did a lot of, little by little, they started doing a lot of different things that they weren't right. But I guess that was their way of showing or getting attention. And at that time, when she mentioned that the prisoners would cry and say things like that because it was too late for them, that they wished they could do something when the kids were little, so you can start them from the bottom when they were young. Really, I say this, and I wish to do something about it, because really, our younger generations it's going to be our life. We're getting old. I talk for myself. and maybe we can do something about for the later generations. We have to start someplace. I don't know how, but I thought I would suggest and bring it up because we need to teach kids values and responsibility, respect, and a lot of little things which you have to have patience, you have to have love for them, you have to have a lot of things. But I understand there's a lot of families, they're broken families, they're young father and mother, they don't care for them. Sometimes the grandparents have to take care of them or whatever. But us as community, we should try and do something. Because to me, I see in the paper that for the last few days, they've been putting more things about animals on the front page. I know animals need love and a lot of necessities and food and all that. But to me, of course, that's my opinion. Human beings need as much love as an animal. And I think we should do something about it. And I think the churches, it doesn't matter, it's the same God. It doesn't matter what church, but we should try and help the kids since they're young and help them up as they grow older and older. Stop whatever they're doing wrong instead of going to juvenile, then jail, and then prison. By then it's too late. We should do something right now. That's my opinion. But we at the church, Centro Familiar Cristiano on East Main Street, we have a program for kids from 3-4 years up to 12, and then we have our youth program. But the little kids, they're learning about God, which is our main purpose here on earth. And then teach them the Bible, respect, and all different things that need to be known by the kids. And we really love them because you just see all the kids that express how their home life is. Some, they don't have parents because their parents are in drugs. Some, they don't have things to eat, or they have different issues. And they cry. It hurts when you see little kids cry because their home life is miserable. So that's why we have Kids for a Purpose. We have that program. But of course, we need more help in a lot of different things. And of course, I know it's going to be hard because a lot of people, we have asked even family about it, or take your kids, whatever, but they don't really care about it. They have their own thing. They don't really care, or they don't have love for human beings. I don't know. The world is crazy. But anyway, I hope there is something you can do. I hope you get some counseling or start little by little. I don't think it'll start right away. But try and do something. For us, the kids, to start with something and keep going up and until they learn how to get out of trouble, not to hang around with the wrong crowd or whatever.
We have a lot of programs that we run through Parks and Recs and through the city, and we'll see what else we can do to help the children. And you're right. If you start when they're young, you try to get them turned before they get to that age to where their reputation precedes them, and it really hurts them in getting jobs and all of that. I hear you loud and clear.
And we have a new chief that has some good ideas also, so hopefully he can work on that also.
Okay, because me, I'm a stubborn. I'll keep coming back.
We know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Come on up, Ross.
City Council. My name is Roslyn Servi, and I'm Carmen Araujo's daughter, and I'm going to make it short and sweet, but I just want to back up a little bit of what my mom just spoke of. I'm with the Family Christian Center, and at our center we do have that Kids with Purpose program, which she just mentioned, and we also have the Dreamers program for the youth. And I just want to let you know that we have, that service is provided for anybody in the city. It doesn't have to be anyone that, you know, is from that congregation. And so I just want to allow you to know that, you know, that service is will try to work with the community, because it is a community issue. And like my mom says, we have children that don't, you know, attend on a regular basis, you know, except for that Kids with program. And we do see a lot of need for the children, which is the next generation that's going to be sitting at your seat eventually, and our future. So we do need to find, what is it, the community needs to rise up in that area, because without family, without, I mean, we don't have anything. Our society is founded on family, and this city is a unique city, and we've been told that, you know, from people that have come to our center, and you know, not just here in the States, but people from other countries have told us this is a unique city, and so we have been wanting to achieve something with our children and our youth, and so I want to offer the services to anyone who is interested. And again, you know, I'm just grateful that I live in this city, and even though it's small, it is a unique city, and I know that it's going to change and become even greater than it already is, because I've already seen changes here, and businesses are going to start flourishing, and families are going to start, you know, becoming more of a unique setting, and people will notice. And I just want to again
Thank you.
acknowledge, you know, and offer this service to the community, and I thank you, and
Roz,
I appreciate
I want to say thank you, and from all of us, we thank you for what you guys do to help our children, because you're right. Without some type of leadership and guidance from us as grown-ups, the kids just don't know how to deal with a lot of peer pressure and the things that goes on out in the community, because they're trying to live up to the reputation of some of the friends without realizing where that's going to take them. So for you guys to take your time to give back to help other people's children, because you have your families and children's too, and we really appreciate that. And again, this city is going to always stick together with that continuity to help one another.
And you know, just like each of us have a talent, a gift, that's what we try to develop in these children, to recognize that they do have something to, you know, within themselves that's been given to them, and they develop it. So again, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Ross.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public like to come up before we move on to the next item? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is the consent agenda. And these items are approved by one motion. Council members or members from the public may request consent items to be considered separately at a time to be determined by the mayor. And that basically means that the items can be pulled from the consent and moved on to regular business.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Consent agenda is approved as presented. The next item on the agenda is item number 4, which is regular business. Review and potential action regarding National Beef California LP request for waiver of late penalty assessment for non-payment of October the 31st, 2013 utility bill, which is presented on page 62 through page 77.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Ruby Walla, Finance Director. The item before you, the staff report and supporting documentation tonight are to discuss an assessed late fee penalty that was assessed on National Beef's November billing. which is in the amount of $25,637.24. What occurred there is when we were doing the December billing, my utility billing supervisor informed me that at that time that they noticed that the November billing had not been paid, which at that time we were doing the billing in basically November 25th. This was being carried out, that the payment had not been received by November 15th, which at that point assesses a late penalty of 10%. And then again, it had not been received by November 22nd, which, as you know, we bill at the end of the month for the upcoming month. So in this case, December 31st for November billing, basically. We bill on the 23rd, due date of the 31st, payable by the 15th, 10% penalty if not paid by the 15th, and then payable by the 22nd, subject to a 0.5% penalty, plus the account is subject to shut off at that point. Under this circumstance, National Beef, at that time when we were doing the December billing, staff prepared the invoice. The normal process is that the invoice is emailed and mailed. Emailed to Bud Ludwig, and then it's mailed. The original is mailed. At that time, staff with that email corresponded stating that that December billing, that November had not been paid. Correspondence was received back directly on November 26th, the same date that the bill was emailed, that in review of the records, they show that they did issue a check on October 31st for the amount due, and that other checks that had been around that same period had cleared, which were mailed on November 1st or November 2nd. We researched our files, the vault, desk, seeing if it had been maybe misplaced for any reason across the street here at the admin offices for transferring mail. It had not been located. At that point, on November 27th, the utility billing supervisor received an email from Barbara Bergeza, the lead accounts payable person for National Beef, requesting a waiver of the late fee of the $25,000. That was forwarded to me. She corresponded basically, there was follow-up on December 3rd. We had not yet resolved the decision. We advised them at that point that it was in review. Once we review it, we would provide a formal written response. In review of the city ordinance and our utility billing policy, we don't have a process for waivers. We have the late fees outlined. There's nothing to process as far as and it's beyond our limit or my limit for a waiver. And do we waive late fees? Yes. We have in the past, and concurrently, if it's usually a city error, we misapplied a payment, and that usually shows the customer supplies us with proof of deposit. They provide us a front and back copy of the check that the city did present a payment for deposit, and we research that. If it finds that we misapplied a payment, we do go ahead and credit those late fees. If there was a delay in processing in this case, there was a payment lost in the shuffle, there was miscommunication, it didn't get transferred correctly, yes, we give credit for that. Or in other circumstances, if we have severely delinquent accounts, that we need to set up payment arrangements to put them back on track, and incurring penalties or anything like that, that will put them behind, or they'll never get ahead and pay that past due balance. In the case of, as you know, we had inactive accounts, getting those on board. If there was a billing error and working those situations out, we do honor late fees. Those have roughly been about $60 within maybe a 12-month period that we have waived. Average, in this case, well, this is a commercial, average residential, which is that's the more of the occurrence, is about $12 a month on a billing, 12 to 15 or 20. We have several situations. In this case, there was the intent to pay. Do they have an excellent pay history? Yes. But the ordinance and our policy does not have a process for waiver or allow me the ability to waiver based on good pay history. So today, what I formally responded in a letter, which you should have in your packets, which states my position as far as the penalties apply. And then they were then recommended to request a formal written request to seek council appeal for waiving of those penalties.
Okay.
I would propose something for your consideration, Mr. Mayor and the rest of council. Considering that they do have an excellent pay history, to get beyond this issue, I would suggest that we make a one-time courtesy waiver of this item, just to move forward. They do have excellent pay history, and
Yeah. Well, I was going to get to that point, but I want to thank staff for doing their job the way they're supposed to. And I do want to hear from National Beef. National Beef has been, their record has shown to be in good standards, as staff has said, but I do want to hear from National Beef before we move
I have
forward.
a question, though, for Ruby.
Okay.
Since you're up there, Ruby. Did the check ever arrive?
No.
The original check?
No.
Never showed up?
No, there was just correspondence that day when they said that they checked their records and they showed that a check was cut and other checks did clear. They did check their bank. It had not cleared at that time. They requested, would we want them to reissue? And then they would issue a stop payment. And at that time, we did request go ahead and reissue, which that day a check was walked in for the amount, for the past due amount.
Okay. But we never received the letter or
No, we
whatever
have
the
not.
check in
It's
the mail was.
nothing's
Never.
come to surface with that.
All right.
And that just shows really that you and your staff is doing your job,
Right.
what you're directed to do. So.
right, absolutely.
Thank you.
Brian?
It does happen, though. I mean,
It happens.
with correspondence, it does happen,
Yeah.
so.
I think it's fair that they have the opportunity.
Thank you.
Hope you're all having a happy new year, prosperous new year. This year will be better than last year.
Sure hope so.
Feed
Right.
prices are down, right?
Thank you, sir.
Well, I don't have a whole lot to add, but I think I'll go through the packet anyway. She covered it very, very well. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor Campbell, for allowing me the opportunity to converse tonight, along with the City Council, Ms. Rosanna Moore and Dennis. Prior to going through the information, I'd like each of you to fully understand that we took all the necessary steps also to make sure that we didn't have a bottleneck in our system, and I'll go through some of those. You're tasked with an administrative decision. It sounds like it's already been made, so I'm not going to go there. What I think I'll do is I'll just walk through the information, and it's really a repeat of what was presented. If you go to the page number 1, and everything is numbered in the bottom right-hand corner. The first is the original bill that we received, and she's absolutely right. The bills are emailed to Bud Ludwig, and then he approves them. That's his handwriting at the top for approval. You can see the bill date was 10/31. Bill amount of $253,000 and some change. Number 2 is the email that Bud sends out to our accounting staff, and the bill was approved at that time. Third document is the check, the void check is actually never received for the amount of $253,930. Document number 4 is a payment inquiry, and we ran that off of the computer, and what that shows is the most recent checks that are given to the city of Brawley. And as you can see, the high number checks are, of course, our utility bills, the $27,000, the $26,000, $31,000. You can see that those are normally cashed within several days of the billings, until you get down to the check number 216252 for the amount of $253,930. That was never cashed. It was voided out, and a check was rewritten on 11/26. The following page is number 5, and there again, that's this is a history of payments going as far back as 8/30. I wanted to show a history of our compliance and paying on time. And as you can see, there's, I believe it totals somewhere around over $8 million from August of 11 through last payment. And to my knowledge, even going prior to that, I came out here in 07, we have never been late on payment to the city. Going further into the documents, these will carry all the way through. I also have documents in there that show, as she explained, the checks that were written prior to and post the check that was written to the city. And all those were cashed within a matter of a few days after they were written. The only one that wasn't cashed was the one that obviously went to the city. That'll run you through a number of documents, and these are for yours to keep for your records. That'll run you all the way to where we started having correspondence with Simon Lamone on page 32. That's when we were first notified that they had not received payment. We got that notification on the 26th. And it was followed right up with an email from Mr. Ludwig to the facility making us aware that the city had not received the check. We immediately wrote the check and delivered it, and as was said, hand-delivered it to the city. And quite frankly, that's going to be our procedure moving forward, is that we will hand-deliver these checks from now on and get an invoice on that. We believe the check was obviously lost somewhere between us mailing it and getting to the city. And I'm not going to walk through the rest of the document because you've already made a decision, but all the information is in here. You can go through it. If you got any questions, feel free to ask. But I appreciate the motion that was made. Our intent is to pay bills, pay them on time.
Well, there was no motion. It was just for consideration.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Any questions from council?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, Mr. Webb, I don't know if I caught that, but just for the record, did you state your name and position, if you could?
Sure.
Just for the public's benefit.
Yeah, I'm Brian Webb, General Manager, Vice President
Excellent.
of National Beef.
Okay. And with that, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I just have a couple questions. I think, obviously, we're boiling this down to there's a check that's been lost, and certainly there isn't anybody here that doesn't understand that happens. My only concern, again, is just it is a sizable amount, and you've had a phenomenal payment history, but I think it was mentioned, I don't know if it's within our purview, if that's the measure of good payment history in order for a waiver. The other thing is it is a lot of money, and it's a lot of money for our city. So just with that said, just the premise of asking for the waiver is saving money, or my question is, if I'm assessed a late payment, certainly as a residential user, I just pay it, just knowing I was late. I'm just curious as to, as an organization, why you're here tonight and asking for
Well, it's twofolded, actually. One is we sent the check, and we also did the terror part. For my own comfort, before I came here tonight, it was actually, as we was getting into what happened in all this, I directed my staff to go to the car that we deliver mail to the post office, tear the seats completely out of it to see if that check was around. We fully believe that we made that payment, and that check got lost somewhere between us delivering it to the post office and it hitting the bank account of the city. I heard that some of the averages, $50, $5, where they are. The number we're talking about is a sizable amount of money. That's a lot of money for us too. But I firmly believe, in all my heart, that we made that payment, and I'd like to have that cleared.
Okay, and just to follow up, I think as the evidence already showed that you did respond in a timely manner, make sure that the payment was made. But I understand it's a lot of money, but it's a lot of money to the city too, impact on our infrastructure, all that and whatnot. So everything's relative, right? So I understand that, and I'm not saying I'm not considering what's before us right now, but I just want to get a few of these questions answered. So thank you.
Yeah, and it's something that we feel that the penalty is something we had absolutely no control over. I hate to point the finger at any one identity, but I've got ideas where the check may be. But like I say, it's a lot of money for us too, and quite frankly, in the times that we're in, It's an extremely lot of money.
It is a unique set of circumstances, and National Beef is a unique user. There's no other user like National Beef in the city of Brawley. So it's still, I mean, I read through the backup material, and I know the story. I've gone over it with the city manager on what transpired, and still, my position's still the same. So it's just for your consideration.
Well, it's a lot of money, and once we set the precedent, then we set the precedent. So I'm concerned about that. It's kind of, everything's a lot of money to everybody. I mean, the city expends out a lot of money, and there's just a lot of things that go on. I think if I have a late fee, I'm expected to pay it. I'm not sure the city waives that for me, and so I'm not sure that I'm willing to go along with any kind of waiver at this point in time. It's interesting that penalties come up and penalties are assessed against you, and maybe through no fault of your own, maybe you receive that penalty. And so I'm just concerned about that, so I don't think I'm in a position, and I don't think that I would support a waiver at this point in time.
I know I'm new at this, but in looking at everything that was given to me and talking to the city manager, I understand the position we're in, and I also need to tell Brian that we are really trying to help the situation, but I also would like that in the future that all the situations that we have with National Beef, that you take a lot of consideration in the matter before you. If we do pass, and give you this fee and waive it, we really need to work better, have a better understanding with everything that we have before us. So I'm willing to waive the fee.
I should just state, though, my consideration is independent of anything else that's going on with National Beef. So I'm considering this just on the fact that it's a consideration for waiver, it's a late penalty assessment, and nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to, could our city attorney, if I can ask, just within our purview, of course, in the ordinance as it's stated, because I know that's a part of the backup material, is this within our...
Well, yeah. Here's the concern, and I think you've all touched upon it, and that is you don't have a policy for a waiver.
Right.
And where you grant relief, where you have no policy, there's, and I suspect as a practical matter, you're not going to face a legal consequence, but from just a theoretical perspective, there is a potential legal consequence to the extent that you do something where there's no legal obligation to do it. There's an argument out there that you're making a gift. And of course, the Constitution precludes you from doing it. So that's something to keep in mind. Like I say, as a practical matter, I wouldn't see that coming down the pike, but where you do something where you don't have a policy, in a perfect world, you'd have a policy in place that would recognize a good payment history or some other basis for granting relief.
Yeah. And it's just, these instances have been pretty close tied together. And let me say this, I understand things happen. And National Beef has been paying their bills, as staff has said, and Brian has said. And with that said, Dennis, I think what we need to do, I think we've got some strategic plan meetings set up. We need to get together and put those policies in place, and not just for commercial, but for residential also, because things happen. It's just, there's not a perfect situation. But I do want to say this, as elected officials, all of us, we're here in the best interest of the business and the residents. And a lot of times it's that old saying in the back of your mind that no good deed goes unpunished. And sometimes when you make waivers like that, you have to be willing to do that waiver for whichever reason it may be. And we're willing to do that. And we understand this is a lot of money for National Beef. And I will say, separately from what's going on throughout the community and with National Beef has done a lot of things for this community. Brian, don't think we recognize that, okay? And when the motion comes, I'm in favor of taking care of this business and putting this to rest, but I think as a council and as a staff, we need to put things in place to put steps in there to where if there's a possibility of a waiver, there are certain things that needs to be met officially
Absolutely.
to do
I would
that.
agree.
And I think we need to put that
I
in
also
place.
agree.
And with that said, I'll read the item and then we'll call for the vote. And the item is under regular business number 4A, review and potential action regarding National Beef California LP request for waiver of late penalty assessment for non-payment of October 31st, 2013 utility bill, and is listed on page 62 through 77. Is there a motion to approve of the waiver?
I'll make a motion to approve. I just would add a comment going along with your comments, Mr. Mayor. We do need to set something in writing that would allow consideration for these matters, and this is a unique situation. National Beef is by far the largest consumer of our utility here in the city of Brawley. And so, while a 10% penalty may not be significant, or maybe to some, in a residential use,
right.
Certainly in this situation it's significant. So I would make a motion to approve, and considering those comments, going along with Mayor Campbell, I think it's important that we work on that in the future.
And I second.
There's a motion by Mr. Nava and a second by Ms. Noriega, and we've put some pretty good topics together, and I think with doing that, I think it will help us with some of these decisions in the future. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry. I just caught you
there's
just
time for
before the aye. Yeah, we still have time for discussion, right?
Yes.
It's not the
Yes.
motion. I really, on this issue, and I want this to be said, I absolutely echo what my fellow council members have said about what the importance, the value, and what National Beef brings, not just to our city, obviously, to the entire region. I have thought very long and hard on this, and I'm sure, I hope, Mr. Webb, you can appreciate some of our concerns with it. It's treating each and every one of our citizens and our businesses the same. And I have reservation with something that we do not have policy around. I have reservation with something we don't have process around. But with that said, and I did do what I believe to be the due diligence, I do agree with one simple fact. It is a very unique situation. I do understand that. I do believe that because of the amount we're talking about, that you'll have a process in place that avoids this in the future. But I do want you to know it's a challenging issue. So it's not to me, it's one of the more difficult ones to come up with a decision.
Sure.
And I really wanted to hear from my fellow council members in a public setting. So that's part of my thought process. So I'm ready
Right,
for it.
and we've discussed it privately as well amongst council members, and it's certainly not something we consider lightly. It's just, it is a unique set of circumstances, a unique relationship with National Beef is so large, and, certainly it's not something that we want, and I agree with Council Member Couchman that it does set a precedent, but we do need to address it sooner. We've had situations in the past where we don't have policy. We've had to make decisions, and we've had to make corrections to certain things, so we don't face those sorts of situations in the future. And so, I understand everybody's perspective, but I want to move past this, and certainly I hope you have something in place in the city as well to avoid this in the future.
Thank you.
Is there any question from the public? Mr. Navarro?
Just one question that Dennis mentioned.
Have him come up.
Come up to the, hope you got microphone.
I'm just trying to see if I can help out. Lupe Navarro, 671 South 18. And listening to Dennis saying that if you do grant the waiver, it's like a gift. Can't this issue be postponed until you change the policy, and then they can come forward and it'll be,
That was one of the things I brought up.
or is it something that you have to decide right now?
Well, it's not necessarily that he's saying it would be a gift. I don't want to speak for Dennis, I'll let him, but it's just something that we should consider since there is no policy in place.
Right, I understand that. But what Dennis stated, that if the city does do it, it's can you rephrase what you said at the end?
On the research that I did, I did not find any clear answer. So the opinion I gave with respect to the gift issue is just theoretical concern about what you might see or could occur relative to making or granting a benefit in a situation where you don't have the legal obligation to do so. So that's kind of the classic gift situation.
Are you saying that because we don't have policy?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So
Now,
what
with respect to the policy, to the extent you have one, it would be typically on a going forward basis, as opposed to having a situation and then creating a policy and say, okay, now we're going to go back.
You can't.
That creates a whole separate set of issues as to, okay, how far back in time you're going to go.
Well, right now, there's only one issue at hand.
Not necessarily.
And I don't have a problem if they waived it or anything like that, because it wasn't their fault and it wasn't the city's fault, but because the city doesn't have a policy, can you make a policy and then they can come back?
That's what he's saying.
Well, if I could comment to that, we do have a policy, but it does not have specific criteria around. The current policy is there's a late fee, it's assessed, and you pay it. So,
But like you mentioned earlier, you're going to change it now in case
Right.
things happen. Well, I'm just thinking, can't we wait?
I would suggest to the council that, as indicated by the councilman, the policy is that you don't grant waivers.
Yeah.
That's the policy as it relates to the water. In those situations in the ordinance where it does contemplate a situation where the council or staff could adjust things, it is specifically addressed in the ordinance. If you're going to get a waiver of this or a reduction of that, these are the factors that you look at in doing it. And so everybody knows up front what the standards are and what it would take to achieve that. So in the absence of that, in the utility situation, the policy would be that you have a penalty and it is what it is. And I would counsel against deferring and then changing the policy and then going back in time.
I don't think
I think that creates a separate set of
I
issues.
think
It's like saying which is the worst of two.
Right.
You know, do you do it now when you can't because you don't have policy, or you do it later when you do have policy? And I feel, well, I just...
No, Lupe, I mean, we appreciate your input. And I think what we should do, we've considered this situation, and I think, again, because we just dealt with this not too long ago, and we've already scheduled, our city manager has met with us and scheduled some meetings for us to do our strategic planning, to look at our norms and procedures, and we need to put steps in place when something like this happens. Did they do this? Did they do this? Did they do? And then if those things haven't been accomplished, then you don't waive it. Right now, we don't have that flexibility as a council. It's staff's job not to waive it, and staff has done that.
Yeah, absolutely. They've done their job correctly.
They've done their job correctly. So, but I think, and this is not the only ordinance that I think we need to take a look at and do some things with. But again, we need to move forward and handle the business.
Looked like
There's a
Jason
comment.
wanted to comment.
Jay, come on up.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I understand that it's a difficult situation for staff, but just thinking in the interest of treating everyone equally, I'm wondering if there's some technology in the computers that can maybe flag 48 hours before an account has a delinquent fee for one last email warning.
Yes.
Something, since in this instance, they did respond promptly, had somebody called them 10 days earlier, which I'm not saying, certainly staff isn't expected to make 25,000 phone calls, it's not possible.
Right.
But if there's some way to do an
big-
electronic notification.
The big accounts.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you narrow it down to the ones that have a $250,000 monthly bill, I suspect it would be a short list. So if some sort of a follow-up notification could possibly be put in place without putting undue burden on staff, I think that would be great as well.
That's a
Great
good
idea.
suggestion.
Yes.
That's what we need
Thank
to put
you.
in the policy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
10 heads of
Okay,
veteran.
we've had some good input, and I believe there's a motion and a second motion on the floor to approve the waiver. And I want to call for the question. All in favor of approving the waiver?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
Okay, the motion carries 4-1. And I want to thank staff because it's a tough job when staff has to do that and let, the customer know that they have no options. So, and being an elected officials, it's our job and then to come in and try to make the best out of a bad situation. And I think we're going to do that. And we need to really, in those strategic meetings, we need to put these things in place. And that way, if you got those triggers and red flags in there, you kind of avoid some of these situations. So, Ruby, thank you and your staff for doing a good job. And Brian, thank you and National Beef for coming up and owning up to what's going on here. So, okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 4B, review and potential action regarding fiscal year 2013-14 information technology capital project, City of Brawley virtual server network upgrade. And who's going to do that?
This evening we have James Arthur, our IT administrator, who, as you know, is embedded within our police department.
Hi, James Arthur. Honorable Mayor and council members. Did you guys review the information? What questions do you have?
The server.
That's a great presentation there.
Mr. Mayor, if I might offer. The proposed project is one that was part of the last two budget cycles. The first year, we presented the need, and unfortunately, our general fund was not in a position, and it was not council's wish to approve the project at that time. We made a second run at the capital project in the subsequent workshop setting tied to the 2013-14 budget, and we were grateful for the support that we received from the council to move forward with the project. The project was originally estimated at $85,000, and it was primarily to be a project undertaken with general fund dollars. Since that time, we have had an opportunity to get fine-tuned dollar amounts associated with the cost of the project. We also identified some deficiencies in our original estimate, and I think our staff report intends to capture what some of those limitations were, including that some of the proposed solution is now so antiquated that it isn't a proper fit for what we have in mind. So as we researched the project, we recognized that the original estimate provided was not adequate to deliver the improvement. And as a result of that, there are two actions before you tonight. The first one is to show you the basis for our estimate and our solution, so you can see how we went from $85,000 to the total figure of $106,573. And the vendors that we communicated with and the solutions that we explored. We then propose a method for addressing the gap between what the estimate is and what the actual cost is, and that is by utilizing our federal asset forfeiture funds that are on the books within the city and not targeted for a specific project, but in this instance, the use of federal asset forfeiture funds, it's an eligible project, but it is outside of our approved budget, so we need to have a resolution for your consideration to amend our approved budget to include that total figure, or that gap figure of $21,000 some odd dollars. So the action items are a resolution regarding the budget adjustment and then the authorization to proceed with the preferred vendor, which is CDWG, and the total amount of the project for $106,573. And if you have any technical questions, James is here to
James, we did look at it, and we know it's needed, believe me. And what if we need be, do we take these one at a time, Dennis, or can we do the resolution and then the item 2? Okay, and the resolution number 2014, resolution of the City Council of the City of Brawley, California, amending the fiscal year 2013-14 City of Brawley budget. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
I have some questions, if it's okay, discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the motion was, sorry about that, Mr. Mayor. Just Also, I thought it was noteworthy, I don't think the city manager mentioned it, but was there some obsolescence in that first? Okay, she did address that, thank you. And a couple of just a little bit more on the technical side. I know this isn't the one-all, be-all, fix-all panacea, but I do think it's important that we understand with this upgrade, is there going to be, does it lay the groundwork for a little more integration in our IT infrastructure for the city?
Yeah, it actually, from when we started back in 2009, when we did this first round, we got a lot less for what we're getting now. I mean, our initial project back in 2009 was $82,000, something like that, plus additional $40,000 in just equipment for Cisco servers or switches, whatever. So now with this solution, we're actually getting a disaster recovery solution where we're having identical boxes located in separate locations in case one were to burn up or crash or something. At least everything that we have will be replicated. Right now, we don't have that. If the PD were to go away tomorrow, everything's gone.
It's gone.
So unfortunately, the replication is still going to be in the PD, just in a different location than the other building versus the EOC. And maybe down in the future, if we get some of these other sites, like maybe fire station number 2 connected to fiber, we can relocate it out to there. That way it'll be a totally separate, isolation kind of thing. But right now, this is the best solution we can do for the money that's given.
And just for my information, I realize this, like I said, this isn't the most comprehensive solution to all of our IT wants and needs, but
it's a good start, because honestly it's got the potential we can grow upon it. So I mean, there's a lot to be said, and actually, there's other solutions, that are a little bit cheaper, but they didn't provide the whole solution, and this one actually provides us with. As myself being one person, it's got a management interface that ties in like 3 technologies all into one. And being one person, trying to take care of servers to everything from admin down to the crawling underneath desks, it's a advantage for me because I got no time as it is. So.
I would say that you have the most interesting way to ask for $106,000. You come up here and say, "Hey, did you read?" Be like, "Hey, did you guys read the backup?"
Well, I didn't know what you wanted me to jump into. I was like, "There's a lot of stuff here."
Your backup.
Don't arrest him, Mike.
Your backup.
I just wanted to add, Mayor and City Council, I would absolutely be ended before I started if I needed to get into the technical part of this. Learning just my I-5 is hard enough. But it is a unique situation with having IT housed at the police department that it kind of becomes a little convoluted when it comes to projects and budgets. So we have worked with the city manager to come up with a solution that benefits the entire city. So we are in support of that.
Excellent.
Thank
you. Okay, one last question, and I swear I'm done. Just on the security front, being that the backbone of this has been primarily centered around the police department and the security needs there, does that go without saying as a city? Are we
secure?
Are we more secure?
No.
Okay.
No, unfortunately, it's kind of just like one of those deep holes. I mean, you can throw security at everything, and if they really want to get in, they're going to get in.
Which target knows?
There is no secrets. I mean, unfortunately, there's always somebody out there smarter than you are, honestly. And I have no clue about even hacking. There's no way I could. We spend all day that'd be just one primary job, period, just trying to block that. We have too many other things going on. We have, the servers. We still need to do on network connections. There's just too many things that we just do the best we can. We've got a firewall. We have like internal security stuff, but other than that, there's just too many other layers we could add on there. And then if you make it more, they say, if you make it more complicated, it just gives more of a challenge for them, and they want to do it more. So.
Yeah, we don't need detail.
Donnie, we've improved over the past several years. From where we started 7-8 years ago, it's just a different environment. Yeah. So, it is.
I've tried
within the city. You've done a really good job.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
One man show. So, certainly.
Cheap too.
Cheap.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
You already have a motion.
There's a motion and a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, authorization to proceed with City of Brawley Virtual Server Network Upgrade Project and execution of agreement with CDWG in the amount of $106,573.
Make a motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve the agreement with CDWG. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is 4C. Review and potential action regarding resolution number 214, resolution of City Council of the City of Brawley, California, fixing taxi cab fares for the franchise holders. And that's on page 119 through 125.
Somewhere.
Mayor, council members, Gordon Gase, Planning Director.
Chapter 25 of the municipal code is what deals with
The operation of taxi cab companies. One of the sections of that is that the maximum rates are to be set by resolution. The last one was done in 2008, and the maximum was $4.50 for one person and additional 50 cents for more than just one individual. We did a comparison. There was one of the two cab companies that did come in and ask about raising it 50 cents to $5. There would not be an additional 50 cents for additional people. It would just be $5 for one, or as many as you can put in a cab, basically. We did a comparison at some other cities. Calexico has the most. It's $5.50. El Centro and Imperial are both already at $5. And if you look at the square mileage of the cities, it's all within a standard deviation of each other, really, except for El Centro. So this is a proposal under the resolution to only raise that portion of the fees by 50 cents, from $4.50 to $5, and they say that would get rid of the extra person.
The reason for the request is just changing business environment. They've expanded their fleet. Fuel costs, and I would be in favor of it. We also need to consider that there are other options for people. We have the Gold Line now that travels throughout the city, so this is more of a luxury, and I think it would be appropriate to move forward with it.
The rates look fair. I think before we move on and vote, is there anyone from the public that's opposing the increase?
Chris Ferguson, now at 1688 Street, finally, thank the city.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I do this at minor inconvenience to my family because we do use the yellow cab, and I'm not necessarily opposed to a flat fee. Let me just make that clear. We use the service at least, 2 round trips a week. California, supposed to have a car, we don't. But since August 15th of last year, Yellow Cab has been charging the full $5 for a single person and that's 5 months ago. So, and if I had known what the procedures were, I did speak with City Manager Moore about this, and if I had known what the procedures were, I would have followed them because, my very first meeting was an El Centro meeting, and they talked about raising the fees there. So I'm just saying that they have been charging single rate $5. I'm not opposed to raising it, but I just want the council to be aware that they've already been charging this, and so I would suggest that maybe they can wait the 5 months. Then get the fee increase because they've already been profiting or getting this extra money without a resolution.
With no knowledge of this, I'm glad you said something. Is it even legal for them to have done that?
Mr. Ferguson brought this matter to my attention before tonight's council meeting. What I advised him, as I would any member of the public with such a concern, is to utilize the ordinance and the provisions for making a complaint. And what we would do, it's actually an area of enforcement that the police department would be an active participant in. So if we were, let's say, a week ago, and the item came forward,
Right.
it would be brought to the attention of the police department, and if it was found to be something occurring, there would be a violation that's issued.
And I apologize for lateness. I really didn't know what the legal standing was on that.
Right. And it's not something we necessarily would recognize on a daily basis. So.
Without using the service.
Right, absolutely. And unfortunately, if that is the case, shame on them, but I think their request is in line with what other areas are charging, and I believe that it's justified in the fact that they are expanding their services. It's certainly not cheaper to do business today than it was 5 years ago. So.
Is there someone here from the cab company?
Doesn't look like it.
And my recommendation would be, now that we know this, is for our city manager to write a letter to Yellow Cab to let them know that, speaking for myself as a council member, I'm really dissatisfied with them doing that, knowing that these fares are to be approved by the council. And if they've been charging that already for 5 months,
I think we can certainly refresh your memory on the ordinance. I think that would be important, but...
Mr. Mayor, I think it would be also important, I would caution maybe Mr. Ferguson's experience, maybe it's an isolated one. I mean, again, without really actually conducting an investigation or really getting to the bottom of it, it might be.
I can clarify that a little bit. They put on their dashboards a sign that says, after August 15th, we will be charging $5 per ride. So this, and it was on every vehicle that I've been in.
Maybe I can't speak for them, and I'm not going to. But I think the issue at hand is whether or not we're going to move forward with this. I would be in favor of doing it. So.
I think in moving forward, they need to be notified that
Certainly.
we do have knowledge of what they've done, and it's not right. And they need to know.
I believe that I don't have any problem with approving this right at the present time. However, I believe that maybe we need to take a periodic look at this and see what they're doing, because we weren't aware. I don't think anybody here is aware. I mean, I don't use a taxi cab on a regular basis. And so maybe what we need to do is every 6 months or so, do a review and take a ride and see what they're doing, or at least depend upon people that do utilize the cab service to maybe provide us input at that point in time.
Sam and I will go to Almario.
And back.
If I may offer the council, the existing ordinance actually calls for a pretty time-intensive process that's regularly conducted by the police department on an annual basis to verify that the drivers are in fact cleared, have evidence of insurance, that the vehicles involved in the fleet are ones that are part of a master list that the city has access to. There's a whole set
But
of
do they look at the rate charged?
They don't, but it is driven by a complaint. So if there's a formal complaint that's issued, that's what we investigate.
Yeah, but my whole concern is if the public doesn't know that they can file a complaint, then there's some issues there. So I think as a city, if we're going to do something with the police department where they're checking that, they should check the fares also. If they have a sign in the cab that says $5,
Or we can, this
or
is
whatever.
For future consideration. We can maybe require that they post the fare on the side of the door.
It is request. It is part of the ordinance to post.
We need to look at that carefully.
Then let's just take a look at it for the future. I don't have any problem with
they
the
do have $5 listed on the side of the car.
Because $5 is the rate to charge for two passengers or more.
For single passenger, $5 on the side
So
of the car.
they've just done it in their own, and so we need to make sure they're aware that they cannot do that in the future.
That's all I'm
So
saying.
I want to make sure that if we do increase it to $5, that it stays that, and they don't start charging $5.50 for two people or $6 or whatever. I just want to make sure that that's clear. I think it's one cab company, right? It's not both of them.
No. The white cab is charging $4.50 per ride.
So I don't
But
want to
it is
say that
Yellow
it's
Cab
all
that
of
is
them.
charging.
I just think it's something that we have to look at
just
for
need to
enforcement,
notify
just so
them,
we
that's
know.
all.
And it is driven by complaints, I think, to a large extent, but I think we need to be aware of it too, and maybe periodically look at it.
I
That's
think I've only used white
But-
cab. So.
Also, Chris mentioned that he wasn't aware that there was a certain rate that the city put out. So the rest of the people here in Brawley probably are in the same boat. They just pay whatever they're told. So they are not going to put any complaint in because they do not know the policy or the rules, how how they charge.
So that's all. I mean, maybe public awareness and also, maybe some public awareness, but also an awareness on the part of the city staff who does the reviews of the cab service to check it periodically, check with the passengers. Do
Yes.
it. It doesn't have to be lengthy. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I just want to make sure that we're covering all our
I
bases.
think our
Okay.
idea, Sam, I'll invite you out to
Yeah,
El Maria.
yeah, we'll do that.
We'll
Yeah, one of
check
these
it out.
days. Absolutely.
Okay,
Steak night.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Chris.
Chris. Is there a motion to approve the resolution as read?
Make a motion to approve.
There's a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda is item 4D, review and potential action regarding purchase of Vector vacuum truck with 2014 Kenworth chassis for the Brawley Public Works Department utilizing City of San Diego bid number 10023 129-13E. That's on page 126 to 128. And I think basically what this does is it allows us to piggyback on that bid from the City of San Diego. Jasmine?
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council Members. Jasmine Arellano, Public Works Director. Tonight, the Public Works Department would like to request authorization from Council to piggyback on this bid from Haker Equipment Company in order to save time and resources. The adopted budget for this fiscal year included $500,000 for the purchase of a vacuum truck. This particular piece of equipment is utilized on a daily basis. We utilize it for the maintenance of our sewer collection lines, for cleaning manholes, wastewater and stormwater, the catch basin inlets, for digging, for potholing, for location and replacement of, for location of water breaks, for location of water meters. Also, on a monthly basis, we utilize it for maintenance of the equipment at the wastewater treatment plant. So it's utilized. It's a piece of equipment that we really need. We do have an older piece of equipment, an older vacuum truck that we would like to keep as standby. And staff's recommendation for council to authorize the purchase of this single axle vacuum truck in the amount of $491,419.44.
Jasmine, is this unit going to come with the camera?
Yes, it will.
The capability of having the camera fixture and everything?
Yes, it has a CCTV, so we're very excited about that if it gets authorized tonight, because we'll be able to do research on our sewer collection system to identify the condition of the lines. And in the past, we've had to, yearly actually, we have to pay a company to videotape some of the line to identify the conditions or potential breaks or root intrusion. So we're very excited about this ability for staff to be able to do this with this particular piece of equipment.
The only thing I would suggest, and you may have it already in place, but I know a piece of equipment like this is very complicated.
Yes.
And I would ask that we make sure that we train our staff, because this kind of equipment has filters and stuff that needs to be cleaned sometime on an hourly basis. And that's why the equipment costs so much money. So I would ask that we make sure that our staff is trained, because this equipment is real technical.
Thank you for the advice. Yes, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, also just in addition, along those lines, warranty, obviously this is going to be a pretty big investment for the city and a big part. What kind of support, training, not to mention training, but warranty comes with this?
I don't have that information on the warranty, but I can get it for you. Typically, it depends on the different parts of equipment, because it has different pumps. From our experience, but it's a little complicated. But I'm certainly able to get this information. It ranges from a year to 2 years. It depends on the particular hours. And it depends if it's based on time or based on equipment hours.
Right. Do we make that selection at purchase, or is that depends on the component?
It depends on the component.
Okay.
Yes.
So a little bit like an aircraft. And then I thought, again, in the background information, it was pretty interesting that we are taking advantage of a procurement process.
Right.
With San Diego. Is that my understanding? Is there
That is correct. The
obviously
only
favorable
difference is
pricing?
that, right, City of San Diego purchased what I think it's a tandem, what they call the double axle, and we're buying the single axle. It's a lighter piece of equipment. It's also easier to maneuver, because most of our sewer lines are in the alleys. So that's the difference between the one that San Diego purchased and the one that we're proposing to purchase.
And I think Donnie's question is valid, and again, dealing with this, I can tell you the chassis manufacturer is going to have a different warranty from the components from cab back. But if you look at page 128, it basically says that the manufacturer may offer you a warranty, but the seller has no warranty express or implied. So what we need to do is just make sure we have that communication with Hacker.
Okay.
To make sure we have that connection with our employees and stuff and get those guys the training that they need. That's what's important. Any other questions from council? Okay, seeing no questions from council, I'll call for the question on the purchase of the Vector truck.
I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the purchase of one Vacker 2110 combination sewer cleaner from Hacker Equipment Company in the amount not to exceed $491,419.44.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and we'll move on to the next item, which is departmental reports. Monthly staffing report, January 2014, by Mrs. Bonilla, Personnel and Risk Management Administrator.
Thank you and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council members. Shirley Bonillas, Personnel and Risk Management. Monthly staffing report, our monthly little occurrence. Just want to point out that Police Department has placed 2 school resource officers, one at the elementary school and one at the high school. My understanding is they're both well received. We are still 4 down as far as number of positions available, and they're all 4 police officers. One officer has placed his resignation, will be leaving us on Friday, but we do have a positive experience as well. January 21st, you're welcome to join us here in the council chambers, 9 a.m. We'll be swearing in 2 officers. One of them will be a paid lateral position, and one will be a reserve police officer. So we have restarted the reserve officer program again. So hopefully that will be a gentleman that might be interested in a full-time position. So we're currently recruiting and working with police department on those 4 openings. We still have a fire marshal in the final stages of recruitment, as well as a lab analyst. We're working on a couple different alternative ways to approach the subject, working on a couple different job descriptions, maybe stair-step it like we do with water and wastewater, where they have a operator 1, operator 2, operator 3, and something in that nature, working with Yasmin and her people. Any questions on the report?
Any questions from council?
So we're still down to 4. The new lateral officer does not.
It's a wash, but it's not a minus, sir. It's not a minus.
It's not a loss, so it's.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley, very much. The floor is yours.
Yay. One more over.
There we go. Mayor, City Council, Mike Crankshaw, Police Department. Wanted to discuss a program that it's been in place, but we're going to revamp a bit. Graffiti abatement program here in the city of Brawley, known as GAP. Sitting down, we basically, with the staff, we talked about some of the primary objectives we wanted to do with this program. The first one being the timely response of ongoing graffiti activity. It's unsightly, it's something that we need to get out there and respond to as the community reports it in. The second thing is to create a method of communication for direct community reporting, which is, we'll discuss that in a little bit in regards to a hotline. And the third is to take a proactive position through daily checks. The end of December, we hired a new employee, Anthony Zapeta, pictured here. Anthony's history is he was a temporary worker with Park and Recreation and was recommended for his work ethic. I had a sit-down meeting with him, explained the importance of this program to the police department and the city as a whole, and to our community. We've had an opportunity to take a look at some of the equipment. Everything seems to be in place. The funding's in place, the equipment's in place, so we're moving forward. Doesn't seem like we're having any issues with that. Part of the notification process is the graffiti hotline that we're setting up. And at this time, I meant to take out that phone number because I want to confirm it with our staff that is in fact the number. We're planning on kicking this off sometime next week, and so I'll have that confirmed. 619 numbers are for voicemails within the city or within our department for whatever reason. So I wanted just to make sure before I move forward with that. The plan is once that's confirmed that we will have a media release letting the community know that we do have a graffiti hotline in place. Simply the community member can call and have the leave a message into some graffiti. We can then make that an assignment to our employee and try to get that paint over or cleaned up within 72 hours of that notification. Some of the big components to make this a very successful program, hopefully, is the eyes and ears that we have on the streets, park and recreation. I've sat down with Mr. Rubio, Public Works, and the police and fire, the city council, other city components. Upon contacting the police department, again, we have a resource to put to the problem. So through these referrals and through the hotlines, we're going to have a very busy employee. Protocols. Basically, this employee is going to get assignments on a daily basis. He's either going to be directed to or self-initiated, basically on-site observations. If he's going to do an assessment if it's a private or public property, and paint colors. If it is a private property, we will ask him to get waiver forms signed authorizing. We are in conversation right now with IID and AT&T, who are willing to supply the paint and give us authorization to cover up their utility boxes. Hopefully that will be kicked off and finalized by next week as well. It seems to be that these boxes are really being targeted at this time, pretty much generally every corner. Cleanup, either paint over, solvents, or removal. I had a chance to speak with the other departments. There are some of the signs that we have, city signs, are anti-graffiti type signs. If they are anti-graffiti, we should be able to use the solvents to remove the graffiti. If they're the older ones, possibly they may be damaged beyond. Another component in this is we expect that 80% of this program, or at least the efforts, will be reactive in nature and come through tips and observations made by our employee and other employees out there. However, that does allow us to create a patrol grid with an emphasis on our city property and high visibility public areas. Basically, if you're caught up with all your assignments, you need to get into an area and break that down. Today it will be the northeast. Next week will be, or the next day will be southwest. We'll break it down into whatever grids is manageable. And then the employee is known, he is going to be completing a daily log of his activity. And so if he does come across graffiti on his own, then the steps of the assessment will take place. Another thing that we are building into this is a component of obviously investigations. This employee is going to now report directly to the investigation supervisor, and one of the purposes for this is that we had recently just painted over some graffiti in the skate park area, and within a day or so, it was already reoccurring. Operations Canvas and other operations like that and law enforcement efforts, we want to start connecting the enforcement component to the abatement component. And with this type of information, we'll know that we can do surveillances and start making some enforcement stops, hopefully to deter more graffiti. We do have Public Works who is also assisting in the efforts of abating graffiti, and we will work with the other departments to combat this type of activity. That's what I have on this program.
It's a great start.
Is the camera still in operation? Richard,
Wireless cameras?
Yes.
Is that what you're referring to?
The what camera?
We purchased cameras some years back to actually take photos of kids out graffitiing, so we still have the cameras.
We have some cameras in place. We have some also in supply that have yet to be mounted that you authorized in connection with some of the surveillance activities of the last year.
Okay. Yeah, because for a while there, those cameras work. I mean, they would people out doing graffiti. It would take the pictures, actually have the pictures of them actually doing it. So. Yeah.
There was a video we made recently with the help of the Public Spectrum. I don't think it's featured on the website. Is it on our website?
I received the link and distributed it, we could ask them for permission maybe to place onto the city website if you'd like it as a button.
Because it had the contact information for the hotline. It also had just a story telling the importance of people reporting graffiti. And that seems to be a big challenge for the police department. So I think it was a good little feature, and certainly appreciate the help at the Public Spectrum. They helped put it together for us, so maybe we could feature that. I don't think it was at any point.
We actually didn't use the hotline. We used our business line at the police department. One really great outcome of that effort was we initiated discussions with the government relations arm of IID and found them very receptive to working with us on painting over the utility boxes. Our historical experience had been that it's just there were too many liability issues with that utility company and others that there was no desire to alter the physical cases that enclose various features. So we were really excited to get their buy-in. And since Chief Crankshaw came on, we were also able to initiate contact with AT&T. So we're very hopeful.
I wanted the video to be like a gentle nudge, and I think it worked a little bit. Because it was like IID stuff and AT&T's, and they weren't paying over it, and they wouldn't allow us to do it. So
Mayor, I have a question. You mentioned, City Manager Rosanna, that we have extra cameras, and they are not set up, is what you're saying?
There are, and I don't have the exact number, I want to say it's something like 3 or 4 cameras. And what stopped the installation was Mr. Arthur, our single IT administrator, being assigned to other tasks that were urgent at the city as well. So.
Okay. Do we have a timeline or when we're going to be able to put those up?
Not at this time. I'd be happy to return to you with a report.
We purchased them, and I feel that since we purchased them and spent money on them, that they should be put up.
Yeah,
I mean, I know it takes time, but...
Those cameras really, it deters and it gives you evidence of what's going on out there, too, and that would help the PD and help the public. I mean...
Absolutely.
Yeah, if I may, City Manager, I'd be more than happy to take that task and find the cameras and start trying to get schedules going as
great.
Our IT person has windows of time that he may be able to assist us with that. And yes, I am aware of these cameras, the snapshots. They make a whistle, causes the person to look at the instantaneous, and you set it up at a different height so animals and other objects that are moving at a lower do not set them off.
It doesn't trigger them, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of benefit to that. So if that is in fact what we have, we can add that to our efforts. I would like to also add that although we need to continue to tune this up as we move forward, we started pretty solid this last week, and graffiti has gone up on Main Street and was down within 24 hours, 48 hours. So we're already getting feedback and positive from the community on that.
Mr. Mayor.
I think there was some, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, good. I wanted to make one comment, if I could, to the chief. And Chief, just moving forward, one of the committees I'm assigned to is public safety. And we actually put, as a committee, quite a bit of effort into more of the outreach education side. Specifically, Rosa Diaz was actually scheduling going to schools, and we had a presentation. So I think one of our committee members, Mr. Ferguson's here as well. So that'll be something I'll take up with you in the future, hopefully, as we move forward and maybe get that committee reinvigorated. But the second thing with moving forward with GAP, just very lightly, it would be interesting. One of the things I think a council would be interested in is quantity, just something what you just shared with us, basic statistics. It'd be interesting for us to know on a day-to-day basis how many assignments are assigned, how many locations are actually abated. And those kind of numbers, it allows us really as maybe, in some cases down, we can see trends. We can see, is it up, is it down? Because a lot of times it's anecdotal. We just think we see a lot more, but it would be nice to know we have a quantity behind it that we are actually making a difference. So, just a suggestion. I don't know if we can capture some stats data or what as far as our abatement activities.
And actually that step is in process. Every day the employee will turn in his daily activity, which actually outlines the location, and he has a point-and-shoot camera that takes before and after for each one. So we are going to capture that so we can track that moving forward. To address the other issue, we also have the opportunity with the SROs now in place in the schools, and especially in the elementary level, that one of the directions we're looking at is creating some programs that are already in place, stuff like stranger danger and anti-bullying and DAR that are already out there, and we can move that right along with some graffiti efforts as well. And Agent Valdez is in the high school, very well versed in that arena, so he should be able to move us along fairly quickly on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
And you answered my question on that, on the two SROs doing that. Thank you.
I'm not sure if we did have some issues with the cameras at one point. I remember the wireless component wasn't functioning correctly or something, but I'm not entirely sure. Just I remember we had the discussion here at our council chambers a little while back. So the
cameras are really helpful, though, right?
Yeah. We'll certainly want to try to integrate that if possible.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Oh, yes. Yeah, please.
Yes.
Lupe Navarro, I have property, well, you know where my property is, right here on the plaza. Ever since day one when I purchased the buildings, I have all kinds of trouble with graffiti. It gets to a point where I don't paint over it because somebody else will come and tag over the tag. So, and the city was helpful in helping me out in the last few months. They had that program, but I understand that it's over with. Anyway, it's good that we have all these programs to cover graffiti, but the culprit is still out there doing it. So what becomes of a person that gets caught tagging? What do you do with them?
That's an interesting question, and I'll explain why. Working in the city of El Centro, I was assigned to put together a graffiti task force where I assigned officers specifically to combat graffiti. And in a 1 year's time, we arrested 106 individuals for graffiti, several of them multiple times. But the vast majority being juveniles.
Yep.
Juveniles create a unique set of circumstances as a juvenile law is mainly set to rehabilitate versus punish. And it presents a question, what's worse, the kid who does a crime and gets away with it, or the kid that gets caught and doesn't get punished? And so it was something that we brought up. We worked with the district attorney's office at that location. I set that as a foundation. What happens to a kid who's arrested? They would be, or anyone who's caught doing graffiti, they would be arrested and taken to, if it's taken to the proper facility, if it's juvenile hall or to the Imperial County Jail, depending on their age. It's a misdemeanor crime. It is a huge quality of life issue for everyone, for absolutely everyone, from business to residents. And it's very taxing on a police department of our size or any size, and it's been addressed at several different levels. To answer your question, we would continue to go through the process as we would with any of the criminal activity that goes on, and hopefully work in conjunction with the prosecution, especially when we identify repeat offenders. That's the biggest one. Repeat offenders, typically, is a restitution that can be done? I've in my experience, no, that's not been the case, especially with juveniles. But we have had success on 2 of those arrests out of 106. So I'm not saying that we would not do due diligence, but that's one of the reasons why I want to add the component. It doesn't make sense to just paint over, but what we're looking at is kind of doing 2-phase, where we're going to keep our city as attractive as possible, and then also be able to identify the crime trends that are going on, so we can start focusing on certain places, certain times, certain people. And if we can do that, then maybe we can gain more out of than just a random patrol and hope that we get a kid with a backpack and a spray can.
Chief, I have a question. I have a question. With respect to it being a misdemeanor, and I know we've discussed graffiti abatement for years here, but with respect to it being a misdemeanor, is there anything that can be done? For example, if the property damage is significant, could it become a felony, or is it just always a misdemeanor?
It can be a felony. There's a number typically assigned to that. I believe it was 5,000 last I saw. That's a very difficult number to reach on one issue. If you can prove that someone was doing a continuous act, especially in a specific place, or collectively, if you have that abilities to do that, it's been my experience that's very difficult to come by. It's just one of those unfortunate areas. I think that if we could, we would focus all of our attention. Some of the big issues in quality of life is traffic.
Sure.
Our street conditions, graffiti. I truly believe that as a community, we want those as soundly as possible. We can only work within the process and the parameters that were presented.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, if now in the case that we had repeated offenders and we can prove that, there's a possibility of being able to raise the level of possible accountability to it or punishment. So.
And the statistics that you shared with us were similar to what we, it's been a few years now, but it was in the hundreds. We had hundreds of arrests as well in a period of about 12 months. So it just, the same sort of issue is that they're not, they're being arrested, but it's not going to court. So.
Go ahead. We actually discussed this several years ago. I think at that time we were talking about there are ordinances that we can put into place that make the parents responsible when juveniles are arrested under these situations, and there are increased levels that we can. I don't know how it works with the fining issues, but I think we looked at some of the other ordinances being put about in other cities, and there was, and not necessarily local cities, but I mean cities around California, where they were making there was some type of ordinance with fines that made it much more punishable. But however, I don't think we ever went any further with that than this the primary discussion and looking at that. It's something we may want to reconsider And we may want to also put some ordinances into place when we discuss the ordinance levels that we have and see what our fining levels are for graffiti, see what the issues are, and see where we can go with some of that. But I can tell you from experience over the years that the juveniles are not, they're generally brought in and then released, I mean, almost right away. So there isn't a whole lot of punishment.
You know, I think another...
Can I answer his question?
Yes.
Sam, about 20 years ago, when I had my business and I still had that problem ongoing, the city did pass an ordinance.
There is an ordinance.
There is an ordinance in the books, and Stephen Vasquez was on the council, and I don't know who else, but if somebody got caught tagging, the city would fine the parents $250 the first time. If he got caught again, it was $500. And if he got caught for the third time, the family was fined $1,000. That was passed by the council because I was present when they did it, because I was one of the biggest complainers about the tagging. So there is an ordinance in the books, but it's been about 20 years, maybe, give or take. It's been a while.
I can't think of a time where we've ever viewed that. It may have been something that was proposed, but I'm not sure if that's an ordinance.
Ask Stephen Vasquez.
I believe we got it when Gary Burrows was here. I think he gave us a copy of a graffiti abatement ordinance, and I believe that we do have some
As a
in
suggestion,
place.
perhaps this topic
don't know
could be
if
part of the strategic
correct,
planning
yeah.
session,
That's-
because it helps as kind of defining a method for achieving a particular goal, which would be the beautification of Raleigh.
I think one of the things we need to do too, and we talked about in the past, and that is to do the check on the stores that's selling the paint.
Yes.
We did do that in the last 12 months. We have had an Remember, we actually cited multiple businesses for the sale of spray paint to minors.
Ryan.
Mr. Mayor, Council, it's been 2 years since we've had a paint out day. Used to have them annually in March. I remember George and Sam and I
We all painted.
participated, and it was a very good community event. I think we ought to bring that back.
The chamber, certainly.
The district attorney, we had 19 red flagged cases where we either had them on camera or we caught them in the act, and none of them were prosecuted by the district attorney's office. I'll tell you that, I will bring that up with the district attorney. The cameras that we had, initially they were downloadable, they weren't wireless, and then we had, I think, 6 that were wireless. One of them was put up and it was stolen within a week.
That happened.
And then, Mr. Couchman was mentioning, we did, and Dennis, you may recall, we were talking about local administrative actions that we could take. There was a resolution or ordinance by the city in regards to the fines. But we were also talking about how we can take that magistrative control away from the courts and do it here. And I remember some of those options that were discussed about how we could hold those people responsive and be able to put them into some kind of direct community, painting crews and such that we could administer here in the city of Brawley without having to deal with the district attorney or the courts. So those were things that I remember we were talking about.
Yes.
I also remember Chuck talking about putting them in stockades.
That's Chuck.
No, it wasn't Chuck. It was John Benson.
John Benson.
If we go back to the stockades, putting a sign
And down on Main Street.
right out here.
Right out here.
The last time Sam, Ryan, myself, we went and did the paint out, there was one young man who went out and he helped paint over the other tags, and he ended up getting caught like 2 weeks later.
Tagging.
For tagging,
right?
yeah, because he was tagging over his competition, so, go figure.
But I do know we have an ordinance in place, and I do know it has fines attached. I don't think we enforce it, and maybe it's something we need to look at.
Absolutely.
We've talked about this so many times. It's just I know that there's limitations, and
you
going
do-
back, anytime I want to remember something, I call Ryan because he remembers everything. But he brought up some good points.
When you're dealing with minors, though, it's a different situation. And I think we need to start with the sellers of the paint. We need to really put pressure on them to make sure that they're not selling the paint to minors, and that's where it starts at. I think if we start cracking down on them and finding the merchants for selling the paint would be a good start. Because I know we went through there and we passed that where they had to lock it up. It couldn't just be out in the open anymore. And we used to have officers go by every now and then and just do a random check and go buy paint and see if they were doing that. And I think we find some people in the past, but
We did it in the last 12 months with the sting operation.
we need to
Several
do that.
local businesses.
We need to do that because that's where it starts. I mean,
That's totally
you do that undercover and you find out that people, they don't.
But see, we need to continue, not just do it once. Because it's not going to work if you just talk about it and do it once and then forget about it.
Yeah, because if you could stop or slow the purchase, that'll take it off the street.
Well, we could certainly incorporate that in our annual efforts.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Chief.
Chief. Thank you very much.
We should have been more of a
Okay.
discussion we could have had. More progress would have been made.
Okay,
Instead of being just punitive.
the next item is update regarding business license and the billing process.
Good evening again, Ruby Walla, Finance Director. This evening, this topic is on the business license process or business license billing, basically. If you recall, back in October, I came with an update and just on processes, a different type of topic, but at that time I updated you as far as we had a new program and its capabilities. Since then, working through it, of course, we've had some glitches, but the glitches are somewhat more than what we can handle. We demoed the program. We purchased it in May of 2011. We purchased the application. We didn't purchase it with conversion. The cost to convert the data in there was going to be costly, that we took it on as staff to do the manual data entry ourselves. So that's why it took a long time for us to get all the information in, make sure that everything was updated. We were running side by side, making sure that the old system was matching the new system. And with training for staff and so forth, we finally launched it and implemented it with the third quarter of 2013 business license processing, which we thought worked really well, more modern, laser printing. For most of you that know us, had an old age system. New look of business licenses. We would invoice separately. Those that are familiar with our business license, you receive a postcard, an invoice similar to what your business license received. The only difference is that if it's not paid, it's not stamped with a seal. So we thought, well, now we can invoice and then issue a license, keep it separate, so no one's confused. If someone, a business doesn't pay for their license, they have it betrayed, and if they're not sure to look for that city seal, a passerby just does, well, they have a license. Well, with that, what we have had happen, we also had the issue with the past due notices. It wouldn't issue a new license without the account being paid in full, which we thought that was a great benefit and feature of the program. However, with that, we've encountered where we had to actually manually bill. Once that period passed, it wasn't allowing us to reissue at all. So we were having to do update manual entry, a lot of staff time, where they would have to actually add charges manually, and it's like basically going back to pencil and paper pretty much, but with the system. And so going back, trying to work with it, working with fund balance, we had our utility billing supervisor actually go to a user group meeting for this application and advise them of the concerns that we were having as well. However, evidently when this program was put together, it was basically brought on by other jurisdictions, other utility billing customer or business license customers, and they, created this application for that type of customer. However, they were on like an annual it's framed for annual business licensing, but there's a lot of our processes don't fit the program, and the program cannot fit our processes. So what we have been pushed to do is basically, after discussing with staff and going through the headaches and even doing with the business owners, because we've had business owners frustrated, them not being able to get their business license. They pay normal processes, they come in and pay, and we can hand off their valid business license. With the new system that we had in place, it would take 2 to 3 days before the system would actually recognize the payment received and issue a business license. It would be, you sign up, you apply, that takes a week or so within itself to get that approved. It was a new business license applicant. Then it had to be paid. The system had to then wait the next business day to recognize the payment and then issue it later, which that was frustrating for new business owners, but existing as well, because they wanted in hand, they wanted an exchange for their valid business license. So with that, we have concluded and we have reverted back to our old system. This was basically a discussion with staff time involved. We still have the business license program. In the event that there's an upgrade, they change, they add new features, they add new components to the program, we have the ability to upgrade. Of course, that would come with a fee at that time. What the amount of that fee is, I cannot tell you at this time because we're not there yet. But we have that application available if we have the desire to move forward. The benefit that we have in this place, we've already entered all the data, so we're not going to be looking at, it would just be basically trying to merge the data as far as, bringing any business license information current, if that's the case. So we went ahead as of January 1 with our first quarter 2014 business license billing. We went ahead and prior to that, mid-December, we sent out notices to all our active business licenses informing them that we were going to go back to the postcard format, which now they would see instead of an invoice and the different type of business license, we're going back to the old postcards. And with that, we also implemented to streamline our business processes, is that we lumped into annual fees. So everything's getting billed January 1. So an $8 per quarter customer is getting billed $32 as of January 1.
I do wish this item had come to council prior to that implementation, because I have 2 business licenses. I got those. I also received a business license. It wasn't sealed, obviously. It was an invoice, really, at that point when I received it. It was late already, and I was responsible for paying the late penalty, even though it wasn't my fault. It was the city's fault. So I'm sure other people were stuck with the same.
That was one of the issues we had, and that was with our fourth quarter billing, where we came up to light on this, especially is that the system was not printing the invoicing or invoicing customers, and then we found not were they only those that were current. There was some, those that were current and up to date and should have had reissued an invoice and a license. It didn't do that. It kind of randomly selected for some reason in the system, undefined. We don't know, and that's why I did have this discussion with city manager that we couldn't verify which licenses were printed and which ones weren't. We have about 800 and some business license accounts, and we don't have it wouldn't print us. We didn't have at that time a list saying these were the ones printed in this batch. So we did honor waiving them if they were brought to our attention, because we couldn't verify a catch-all because not all were printed. So we couldn't identify those accounts specifically, but if they did come to us within that period, and basically it was benefit of the doubt because we knew the errors in our system.
Right. Well, I had received it after the postmark. Yeah, it was already past the late date, so
right.
There was no way that it could have been.
It was already delinquent when you received
right.
it.
Uh-huh.
I think what we need to do is look at bringing in some help to help us get the process correct, and so it streamlines and helps them do that.
It was this recent experience that prompted the decision that the process as it's currently defined is not working, and the errors that are created from it are a greater issue than the solution they were intended to accomplish. So after several businesses bringing it to both of our attention that they had, just as you described, received an expired set of documents, that their wish to be compliant was one that couldn't be achieved because the issue dates were already expired.
I did pay my late fee, though, even though it wasn't late.
But why wouldn't we have sent out letters stating that we did have a problem and that there was fees, late fees being given, but we were not going to collect them and not to pay them?
Why did
we sent out a letter? why did not, when we found this problem out, because I'm sure at that point we hadn't gotten everybody's fees in, did we not send out letters and apologizing to people and letting them know that we did have a glitch in our...
Because our system did not have the ability to identify which were the ones that actually received it, which were the entities that were billed versus not billed.
Yes.
And depending on the type of use you are for a business license, that's when it prompts the timing of your payment.
But I would have stated in that letter, and if you were one of the businesses, then, please come in and we'll take care of the problem. We will not charge you for it.
I think that's a good point. I mean, it could have been handled that way, but,
Okay.
Other
Any other questions from council? No. Okay. Ruby, thank you very much. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 6, which is city council reports. And I'll start on this end this time with Mr. Miller.
I hope everybody had a nice New Year and Christmas with your families. Was able to enjoy some time to wind down a little bit, but didn't have a chance to meet with some business owners here in the city, and hopefully helping to recruit some other members for our business advisory committee that has been in the works for a few years, but we haven't launched entirely. So hopefully we get some new members in there soon. Also attended the MAG Coalition event yesterday with fellow council members. That was a nice event, and hopefully seeing the response there, that people certainly recognize that there are people affected by gang violence, and I think the issues that were brought up today, like vandalism, graffiti, they all go hand in hand. So hopefully it's something that we can all work on together this year. And quality of life issue, it's been one for years, at least since I've been on council. It's something that I've always had an issue with, and I'm hoping that we can address it here this year. So that's my report, and I want to thank staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Council.
Yes. Hold on, we have a dancing, we have music. I don't know.
It's an interesting ring.
No problem. Okay.
Could have been worse, I guess.
Yeah, it could have been.
Your report came with some background.
Yeah, background music. Okay, basically I had a real quiet, nice holiday. My son came in from the Army. That was a good thing, so I spent a lot of time with him. But I did attend one event, and that was the Barberworth Career Day. And I think George was there also. We got to talk to the students about careers, about their future plans and stuff. And these are 7th and 8th graders, so they're not really set in what their future is going to be. But I think it's important that we as business people and as politicians and as government leaders, and et cetera, I think it's important that we go talk to them about it, because they are smarter than what we think, and many times they're smarter than we are. And I think they do a real good job of listening and absorbing what we teach them about careers, potential jobs out there, what's going on out there in their community, and they are vitally interested in that. So we had a good time with that, and that was like almost half a day of dealing with that. I also did a report for the One Stop here in Brawley, and that's about the extent of it. I had a great holiday. I hope everyone else did. I appreciate all the effort. I saw the city people out there. Some had to work, I think, on Christmas Eve. Some had to work on Christmas Day, especially Public Works and some of the other things that were going on. And I think the fire department provided some services to some of our community organizations as regards Santa Claus. I think that's a great thing. And so I appreciate all your efforts, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Costner. Mr. Wharton.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Maybe my dates are wrong, but I think soon after our last meeting, we did all attend the Gold Line opening. Was that the next day? But again, I know our council and really everybody from every department was very well represented. But personally, just enjoyed that. It was a great celebration, I think, of a lot of folks' efforts. Specifically, I do want to point out, I know that our Mayor Pro Tem Nava serves on that particular commission. So again, just well done. It was a great celebration. Thank you to our city manager and the rest of the staff. I enjoyed that. Got a good picture out of it with a few of our chiefs, even though it was photobombed. Talking about that a little bit later. Airport commission meeting. We did not have a quorum at our commission meeting, but we were able to discuss with the parties involved, and Yasmin, of course, was there, and we're still excited, obviously, with the big project coming up this year at the airport. As Mayor Pro Tem Nava mentioned, local business tours, we are definitely pursuing that as aggressively as we can, and there are actually several business owners that are stepping up. I'm hoping to continue those discussions. Everyone has a blank application in their hands. I want to see ink on them. So I'm pledging myself to go pick them up if that's what needs to happen. But once again, I'm going to reiterate the importance to us that we really get a good cross-section of business representation on that committee. So again, those efforts continue. Big event took place over the holidays also. Holidays for me tends to be work. Absolutely enjoyed, as everyone mentioned, family, but for us in the business I am in, we actually get busier. But something that impacts Brawley, another big Polaris Camp Razor event took place out in the Glamis area. As some of you, again, I kind of report this out because I think the impacts to our city, as well as we have a lot of local attendees. It's just a phenomenal event that goes on out there. They're committed to do this event in upcoming holiday weekends, so I'll do the best I can on a reporting or calendar basis to get those dates out early. With that being said, anything else here that's of interesting? Obviously, Barbara Worth Career Day, enjoyed that. Mad Coalition Vigil last night. There's not enough we can say about it tonight that can do it justice, but I really echo my fellow council members, all of us up here. Mayor, our mayor did a phenomenal job of speaking to the group and those of us that were there and attend last night. But I think that, in my opinion, this is why we're here. When a citizen or a member of our community is in need, I think it's really important, not just as a city, but as just a citizen, that we're there for them. So again, and I know it's a community effort, so again, I appreciate that last night and I enjoyed that celebration. That's all I have. Other than that, Happy New Year, and I really look forward to a great 2014.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Ms. Noriega?
Yes, I also attended the Gold Line, and I was the only one to go take the trip all the way around the city, and I have to say it was very interesting. And when we stopped off at the senior citizens, I got off, and thank God, there was a big amount of senior citizens there. There was a long line because they were picking up food. So in essence, I explained to them, and I handed out some brochures that I had, and I took from the rest of the other 3 people that were on the bus, and gave the brochures out to the senior citizens. They were excited, and they wanted me to come back to the senior citizen and report out to them how much it was going to cost and the whole deal. So later on, maybe a couple of days later, I did that. I went back to the senior citizen and I explained to the rest of the crew that was there how much it was going to cost, and I explained to them the stops that were going to be around, and they were very excited. I haven't gotten any word on if we've been using it, if they've been using it, but I think that once everyone gets the hang of where the stops are, we are going to have the Gold Line get rode on quite a bit. Also, on Mrs. Araujo coming in today, I wish she would have stayed and heard the presentation that our chief had. She has always been very pro for our children, helping out any and everybody's children. I think that's why Dawn called her mom. She's always been here. I've seen her here in different meetings explaining how we need to really put a handle on our kids and everybody else's kids, especially the ones that do not have parents and or do, but are not taken care of, and they're being taken care of by extended families. So I really hope that the chief gets out there and gets our graffiti going and gets our students involved. I think that if you get students involved, even helping one day and having that paint day that someone mentioned, that would be excellent. But involving the high school and the elementary on that. Also, I took a couple of people out to lunch on your business commission that you're trying to get others to be on, and I do believe one said yes, and the other one's still thinking about it, so I might have a couple for you to sign up. And because it was the vacations and stuff, I had a great time. I had an uncle that came down for a day, and I had tons of my family that I hadn't seen for them to come and see my uncle. So I was kind of busy with that. But I had a great holiday, and I hope the rest of you did too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Noriega. Real quick, I just have a couple of things. I did also attend the Gold Line ribbon cutting, the MAC Coalition ceremony last night, and it's just, as everyone has said, it's just no way to explain the feeling to lose a child like that. I really admire that family too, and they got started with that just immediately right after the death of their son, and it's just got to be heart-wrenching. I was talking to Yoli, matter of fact, at the Gold Line ribbon cutting, and believe it or not, as they stated, they're just now starting to get back into want to celebrate some of the holidays, because I know it's got to be really difficult to want to celebrate holidays when you just lost your child, you know. So they're starting to come around and getting that strength back and having that faith in the Savior that things are going to work out, and I think it will with all the support from the community. And we had a really good time lighting those skylighters. I have to admit, you know, I'm getting to be an oldie guy, but I've never seen one of those. And I'm asking.
Chief's eyes were like, "What you guys like?"
Really, where's those things coming down at? You know, but it was nice. It was a nice event. I attended the toy drive and stuff that was put on by the car show for the kids. Donated some toys to Hidalgo for the toy drive, and that's something that our community, I really have to take my hat off to our community organizations. They really get into that, collecting toys and stuff for the kids that need them, and that was really nice. I attended SCAG. I'm on the SCAG Economic Development Committee, and this month on January the 2nd was a real interesting meeting. SCAG talked about the population growth in Southern California and kind of where we are with our medium income, and really some sad news about the poverty level and stuff in our state. And I admire SCAG. SCAG does a lot of work to try to put up grants and stuff to help the communities look at those things and see what those needs are and see what we need to do to help create jobs and help folks. So that trip, the first Thursday of every month, is well worth it. I really enjoy that trip. And with that being said, I want to say to everybody that 2013 was a challenging year. We got through it with the blessings, and I look forward to serving our community in 2014, and I appreciate everybody's effort and the hard work and the work from my colleagues. I think everything will fall in place, and I look forward to our strategic meetings and looking at our norms and procedures and everything, and working together as a team to accomplish what the residents know that we can get accomplished. So I want to thank our staff, and I ask God to continue to bless you guys and your families. Thank you. We'll move on to the Treasurer's Report. City Manager's Report.
Happy to report that the Gold Line did clock 78 passengers. That is the highest numbers that have since been shared with the city. I'd be happy to get to you the figures through the holidays as more folks became aware of the availability of the line. Day one was under 10 passengers, so thank you for being part of those numbers. And I can't recall offhand the target, but I want to say it's in the vicinity of 120 to 130 passengers per day. So within the first 2 weeks to be able to hit 78 was a real accomplishment. And we'll come back with harder data to show you from IB Transit. I had a couple of items that, I'll take the first, and want to share that we will be hosting a reception at the police department to celebrate both the renovation of the department and our emergency operations center. That is scheduled for January 22nd, and we'll be getting an electronic invitation out to you shortly. It is 5 to 7 p.m.
We'll send out a note.
and wanted to also look to you for some guidance and consensus on two topics. And the first is a proposed schedule for the budget process. I have distributed that to each of you and had a chance to chat with staff about it as well. The intent is in many ways to mirror the way the schedule that was in place last year, which was first present the council with a mid-year budget review. So we'll show you how we've progressed with our estimated revenues and expenses for the current fiscal year. We're proposing to bring that presentation to you at the second meeting in February. So it would be looking at July 1 to December 2013. And then proposing a series of 3 special meetings to follow. And I might offer that if you want to combine some of these, we're open to it, but this is the way that we structured it last year. And as you may recall, the general fund workshop, bless you, took the greatest amount of time because it's the fund that has the most flexibility with regard to use. So that's proposed, again, as a standalone. The dates are February 27th, April 8th, and April 29th for a strategic planning session, workshop on the general fund, and then a standalone workshop on enterprise and special funds. The goal would be to adopt the overall budget by City Council resolution on May 20th. I'm looking for feedback from the council with regard to time of day and a location that you prefer. We're happy to host it here in the council chambers, but if you wish for it to be somewhere else, we're certainly willing to accommodate.
Can we also integrate somewhat of a retreat for us and different things that we need to know how we communicate? What is it that we communicate? What is it that we...
Staff and I are perfectly open to the wishes of the council. If you wish for a retreat format and an outside facilitator, we can certainly bring that in at your request.
We have the strategic planning session, and that incorporates some of those things too. So that would probably be what.
Yeah, and
You had some ideas.
in that session,
That'll come up.
in that session, I think what we did was just kind of like a brainstorming thing. We just sit down and talked about some of the goals and objectives of communication in a perfect example, because we haven't done a lot of travel and training, but because funds are so limited, in my case, I would say, hey, the committees that I'm working on, I'm not looking to travel or use any of my funds, so if there's someone else on another committee that needs the money, there it is, That's the kind of communication that I think that Helen's talking about, and we do need to do that.
Yes, because I've done some calling on some of my council members, and I have not gotten a return call. So I think that's part of our communication, that I'm not receiving phone calls back. That's one. So maybe somewhere I have wrong phone numbers or something. So I need to get some new ones.
If I may offer a suggestion, if it's helpful, I can devise like an overall framework for the strategic planning session with an agenda, what the meeting aims to accomplish.
Right.
And then you guys can tool with what you want. No, this isn't something that is a goal, or yes, this is a goal. Like things like communication could be
That would be
identified.
one, and also as a new member, what is their suggestion for, what training do they suggest, should I go to, there was a couple here, look at these, how do I sit down with each one and get their ideas?
The league offers a lot of that training.
Well, there's new mayors and new council members training, or...
Well, I know, but not right now, but just, that would be part of it, that we could discuss, have that discussion on a new board member. What is it that, what is it you guys like? What is it that you prefer? We don't all do the same, we don't all think the same, so, what do you prefer? I'm not going to say that I'm going to do it that way, but at least I get your ideas.
The norms and procedures highlights that, but then the other part of it is just communicating.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if I don't get called back,
Emails,
that's kind of...
everybody communicates differently, so some respond to email, some respond to phone
Exactly.
calls.
So how am I supposed to know that?
Ask.
Well, no, that's why I'm saying, we don't really get to sit down and talk, because we can't we can have, there's certain discussions we can have and certain discussions we can't have, with more than one. So that's what I want to know.
But I think it sounds good. We can certainly weave that in, maybe expand the format of the strategy workshop/retreat. I mean, really, we can, I certainly would be one that would be willing to see what we can do to maybe expand that just a tad bit and then include that in, because I think duly noted. I think that's, there's nothing there that I don't think we can address and work together, and that'd be probably a perfect forum for that.
Perfect to get together and do that.
With regard to the meeting dates, is it possible to get feedback from all of the council relative to those dates, whether they work for you and what the time of day is that's preferred and the venue?
We've had it at the Del Rio in the past. Did that work?
Yeah.
I guess that's okay. We've had some here.
We've had some here too.
These are 3 special meetings that you want times on. The other ones are pretty set, right?
Right.
So you want
Correct.
the time
The
for
special meetings on February 27th, April 8th, and April 29th. Is the 6 to 8 window fine, or you want it 5 to 7 or 4 to 6?
I'm fine. I'm fine with it.
Do you have a preference?
I think that's,
I think the dates work with me, and I think, I don't know if we want maybe consideration just to, if we want to consider mixing up the strategy meeting with a different venue, I'm open to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it gets us out of that element too.
It gets us out of the elements, meant to be really open forum. I think our supervisor was kind enough to kind of express a similar strategy planning session with the county, so I'll be interested in attending that when maybe we get a date.
I think 6 o'clock time seems to work.
Maybe budget here.
Emergency Operations Center?
It's a great venue for meetings.
Don't you think 6 o'clock works best for meetings for most of you? I mean, I can be there anytime, but I mean, it's a question of people that work.
I'm fine.
I'm open, sure.
Not a little earlier, 5?
It could be.
Can we do 5,
I'm
please?
fine. I'm open.
Okay.
I don't mind.
Work schedules and stuff like that.
I don't mind 5's fine.
I'm open.
So we'll assume the 5 to 7 p.m. on April 8th and April 29th and February 27th. Provided our EOC is available, which I'm guessing it is, we'll use that as the venue. It'll still be a posted public meeting, so we'll have it open. All of these meetings will be open to the public. Last year, when we prepared for the strategic planning session, I facilitated the majority of the discussion amongst council, and as you may recall, we had a prioritization process, some ideas that were used for discussion purposes, and then a request of the council to kind of have internal dialogue on what are your top 3 to 5 priorities that you want to see represented in the budget that eventually comes for your consideration. Does the council wish for that forum to continue, or do you want to put more meat on the bones? I have heard from some individual members of council that maybe, since that was the first time we'd done the strategic planning session, it was a broad set of strokes, is now the natural evolution.
That was helpful, I think. That way you get an idea of all of our feelings.
I would like, if I could, Mr. Mayor, just offer up, I have some experience there, a little bit of background more in the private sector, but would be more than happy to help facilitate that workshop. Okay. As far as structure, putting it together, by no means it's going to be a collective open idea, encouraging, like you said, a little bit more meat on the bones, but I think we can really get some quality work done in that in a fairly short period of time. So I'm willing to put that, a little bit of that upfront effort in and working with staff, if you don't mind.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I talked to Donnie about that previously too.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Great, so that's great direction for us, and we'll move forward with publishing for the public's benefit the final schedule for all the budget workshops that are planned for this next budget process. The last item that I was hoping to get feedback on is a request for sponsorship that has come forward, and that is for the Hidalgo Society's 92nd Installation of Officers banquet. I did send out an initial inquiry to council members about attendance and have received from the majority of you an indication that there's interest in attending the event. The tickets are $25 a person. Event sponsorship is $250 at the minimal level for 10 seats, or $500 at the community partner sponsorship level. So as you may recall, in your line items as City Council, you have the ability to sponsor special events at the consensus of the council. So I have that item before you to inquire.
Just a table.
Just a table.
So at the $250 level. Okay, fantastic. So we'll square that away for staff. Last item is just a reminder that I will be attending the Joint Powers Insurance Authority Executive Academy next week from the 15th to the 17th, but city operations will continue, and if you need anything in my absence, you're still more than welcome to contact me via email or phone.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Mayor, I will be gone to the meeting in Sacramento from the 21st through the 24th,
Sounds good.
so I won't be at your.
I wish you guys safe travel.
Yes.
Okay, city attorney's report. Yeah, nothing. City clerk?
Any suggestions?
It's fine. Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming out. We're going to adjourn this meeting and go into closed session. You guys have a good evening. Thank you very much.
Okay.